Morning, everybody. It's 9:30. I'd like to call the Southeastern Public Service Authority Board of Directors regular meeting for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 to order. And the first thing would be that we would all stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda would be public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment?
No one has registered to make a public comment either in person or electronically.
Okay, the next thing would be my comments. I've just got a couple of things. I sent out a memo last night. Hope everybody appreciates the timestamp on that. It was a few minutes before 11 o'clock when I got that memo out. But okay. So I sent out a current contact list for the board of directors, but also pointed out in the memo that we have 5 of the governor's board of directors, governor appointees, 5 of the 8 will be leaving us at the end of this year because there is a term limit. You can only serve 2 consecutive terms, and that's in state law. And talking with Brett, there is no exception to that. So we're going to lose 5 of the governor appointees at the end of this year. Also, we have 3 of our locality appointed appointees and 1 of our alternate appointees who will be leaving between the summer and the fall for reasons of things like retirement and moving to other jobs. So the board is looking at a massive loss of some very valuable institutional knowledge and experience and a lot of turnover. So I did ask you in that memo to make sure that you get with your principals and remind them of these expiring terms. We sometimes run into issues where the jurisdictions don't get their appointments made. And this particularly applies to the governor appointees because there is a process that has to be followed. And you have to be somewhat vetted by the governor's office. I don't think it's extensive, but there is a little vetting. And then you have to be appointed by the governor and you have to be sworn in by the governor's staff. So it does take, it's a little bit more complicated than, say, the city appointees. So if you would all pay attention to that, discuss it with your principals and get that process moving. Along those lines, the term of our current officers, the chairman, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer will expire at the end of June. According to our bylaws, I am to appoint a nominating committee, and that nominating committee will make recommendations for officers to for a slate of officers to fill those positions, and then we would vote on them at our annual meeting, I believe in July. Our annual meeting will be July. So I had earlier sent out a memo requesting, pointing out that I had some volunteers, and apparently that chased off a lot of other people because I did not receive any more additional volunteers. So that being said, I will appoint the nominating committee of John Kiefer from Norfolk, Cheryl Ralston from Franklin, and Luke McCoy from Portsmouth. It's a good, it's a real good slate of experience and represents our service membership geographically pretty well. So I thank you all for volunteering, and good luck with recruiting the slate of new candidates for officers. So that's all I had. At this point, I will move to move for approval of our minutes. I hope everybody did look at them. 15 pages long. Excellent job by the staff. And if there aren't any concerns or comments about the or corrections for the minutes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes. A motion to approve? and a second. We have a motion to approve and a second, second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion, corrections? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anybody that had to abstain? Okay, that's done. The next one, now this is, we're getting into some, a very annual, an annual exercise. It's really what people used to tell me is that your budget is your operating plan in financial terms, very important. And I'm going to turn this over to our executive director for the budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to move swiftly through this, but I want to make sure that if you have any questions, we take time as we go through to stop and answer them, because this is an important part of the process of planning for the things that need to be done at SPSA. So I think that we've done a thorough job of trying to look at that and fund those initiatives that need to be funded in order to achieve our goals. So first of all, the budget theme this year is developing sustainable solutions for managing the region's waste, and that's looking at the landfill capacity we have. How do we extend that and continue to have landfill space for years to come? Some of the goals that we set this year were to continue managing the available airspace at the regional landfill. We are currently increasing the number of flyovers we do with a drone, and having SCS constantly looking at how much airspace we're using, what our compaction rate is. We're doing everything we can to manage that, and that includes, and you'll see a little later on today, where we're making some adjustments to what we're actually putting in the landfill and having to move some waste to private landfills. Next, we're going to hopefully this year we'll finalize the efforts to initiate some type of alternative disposal methods so we can continue to increase the landfill capacity. We're going to open the renovated and very nice Portsmouth transfer station. We've been waiting on that. We've had some delays with demolition, as you know, from the demolition contractor, but as soon as they can finish that up, we're going to get in and start doing the construction, and that we're close to that now. And then we're going to continue to maintain a highly skilled and motivated workforce, and we've made a tremendous progress. We have very low number of positions that are vacant, and when we have a vacancy, we're able to fill it very quickly, and I think that's has a lot to do with the actions that this board has taken over the last several years to improve the pay scale for employees. Some of the highlights for the budget are revenues will meet the expenses at 53,367,130. Addresses a projected decrease in municipal waste. We've been sharing that with you for the last 4 or 5 months now, that we're seeing municipal waste volumes go down. We've done some extensive evaluations of the waste stream, and I have some information to share with you today on that. The proposed budget represents a 1.8% decrease from last year. The proposed budget shows no change in the municipal tip fee, but there are several other changes that we're recommending, and I'll go through why we're going to recommend those to you for consideration. It adds 8.5 million to the designated fund balance, which is needed because we've spent more than we anticipated in cell 8 construction, or permitting of cell 8, excuse me, due to the wetlands impacts that we've had to deal with, and that 8.5 million helps replenish the funds that we've used for purchasing the land that we needed for mitigation. And lastly, this budget will provide a 2% cost of living allowance for our employees. The projected municipal tons, this is an interesting chart. I'm going to go through not just what you see for this year, but compare that to last year. So the percentage of the waste stream hasn't changed drastically. Most of those numbers are the same as they were last year. But what has changed is the actual amount of waste, which brought the total waste volume from 500 tons last year to down to 450,000 tons this year for municipal solid waste. Virginia Beach is looking at a decrease this year from last year of almost 20,000 tons. If that if the rest of the year holds true, this is exactly what you're looking at from a decrease from last year. Chesapeake would be looking at about 6,000 ton increase. That increase that is as a result of a couple of things. And part of it is what they've gone through with their recycling program and a lot of transition growth in the city. But that's an anomaly here to see the tons actually go up. In Franklin, for instance, their numbers will be has gone down about 1,000 tons from last year. Southampton went from was 9,637 last year, and this year it's just over 10,000. And these are again projected from the current year's totals. Suffolk was 48,185 last year. This year it's looking at 44,859. So you can see the percentages haven't changed a lot, but the volumes have changed, and those volumes total about 30,000 tons. Portsmouth goes from 43,000 last year to 37,908 this year. So there's something that Mr. Keaton has said over and over again. I'm going to make sure I credit him for saying this, that waste is waste. Doesn't matter whether it's commercial or it's residential. It's just where you dispose of it. It's all the same. And this is true. What's happened is since businesses have opened back up after COVID, and we've seen this, we went back and looked, and we see it constantly moving up to the amount that goes from municipal waste to commercial waste. And the reason is because people are getting out more and doing more, and we're back to normal. So I think we've seen that in the stream of waste. So somebody goes to McDonald's, they're throwing away their bag there now, where during COVID they were bringing it home and throwing away at home. So we swapped, and we just missed that last year. We projected 481,000 tons last year, and we didn't get that this year. So but what we did do was you'll see that the total tons that we brought in to include commercial and residential are essentially the same. So we'll look at that a little closer later on. So the proposed changes to the tip fee this year, first of all, is the first change that we're recommending to you is contract non-municipal waste. It's currently at $59 a ton. We're proposing to move that to $62 a ton. And the reason that we're proposing to move it to $62 a ton is because we received a 4.8% increase from MBI, who does our hauling. And we've seen since our inception of our contract with Waste Management for landfill capacity, we've seen about a $6 increase at Bethel and about a $4 increase, $4.50 increase in disposal fees at Waverly. So in order to keep track with those increased expenses, we need to increase that. And there's been a discussion about amongst this board for a long time about bringing those tip fees closer to the municipal tip fee. So this does certainly do that. And it does it because we need the additional revenue to pay for the increase in cost to manage their waste. And if you all know this, that we don't haul municipal contract waste, and we don't dispose of contract waste at the regional landfill. It has to be hauled by a private contractor, and it has to be disposed of at a private landfill. So we're kind of boxed in there as to what we might be able to do with that. So we're recommending an increase from 59 to 62 for commercial waste. Household, that's contract commercial waste, excuse me. I want to be clear about that. That's those who bring us 30,000 tons or more. Won't affect the tip fee for other contracted waste. Household hazardous waste, we're looking to move from $37 per trip to $39 per trip. And the reason that we're requesting this or proposed change is due to lithium ion batteries. Last year, And this has become more and more prevalent, with all of the devices that use lithium ion batteries. We disposed of 2,353 pounds of lithium ion batteries. Cost to dispose of those is $6.50 a pound. So it's $15,294 to dispose of just the lithium batteries we're seeing. Uh, I'm going to tell you that the normal batteries are, we spent about $4,000, Mike, last year on normal batteries. Is that correct? So that you see the difference in lithium ion. We've been used to paying that lower rate for normal batteries. So we're requesting a change to pay for the increase in the number of lithium batteries we're seeing. Um, Next is commercial electronics recycling. This is a new program that we're proposing and asking you to put onto the tip fee. What we're proposing is that we charge $5 per unit to commercial customers for recycling their electronics. The minimum charge will be 15, just like it is for citizens. A citizen can come in, and the difference is a citizen comes in, they can bring 50 for $15, where the commercial sector, we're charging a per unit cost, minimum $15. So that's including your tip fee. Next is an increase from $55 to $60 for C&D material. Uh, we spent a lot of time discussing this. It's not about the material. C&D is certainly a material that's not, it's not dangerous. It's easy to manage. But the problem is that C&D can go into a C&D landfill that's not a line landfill, that's a much cheaper. And we're running out of landfill space. So why are we putting things in our landfill at a lower rate than we're charging for municipal and commercial waste when it's the same thing, a ton's a ton, right? So we're proposing to increase that to $60 in hopes that it will decrease the amount of C&D that we're bringing, because there are companies out there that take C&D. You've got private landfills all over the place that take C&D at a lower rate. So we're hopeful that that'll transfer some of the waste out of our line landfill, so that our landfill can be used for things that go into a subtitle D landfill. Then the last item is a wastewater treatment plant sludge. Was $55 a ton, and we've had other communities now approach us about hauling that or bringing that waste into the landfill. And because we do that for Norfolk, we would do that for other communities as well, because everybody can receive the same services. But we didn't have a fee for that, that where we didn't haul it. So when we started looking at the fact that we're hauling Norfolk's sludge and we're putting it in the landfill and we're putting it in cheaper than the typical per ton fee, we needed to address that to make sure that everybody receives the same service. So we're proposing a change to $55 to $60 to cover the cost for the hauling. So those are the changes that we're recommending. If you have any questions about these, staff and I will be glad to answer anything you might have. Specifically, because there's a lot of changes, I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions about them now before we move on. All right. If there's no questions, moving to the next slide. This is just a typical breakdown of revenues and expenditures. Tip fees and revenues account for almost 50 million, excuse me, and revenue is 49,899. Charges for environmental services is about $1.5 million revenue. Landfill gas recovery, we're anticipating about 600,000 in revenue from that. Miscellaneous income, 423. Interest income is 873. And while the interest income, we're anticipating going down because a lot of our money that is drawing interest is being pulled out to be liquidated to pay for the process on the flyover. So we anticipate a lower amount of interest earnings this year for a total revenue of 53,367,130. Under our operating expenses for FY26, 40 million. right at 40 million for operating expenses, capital expenses, 4.5 million, and reserves for landfill closure, 8.5 million. We kept that number up this year because of the increased expenses that we had for wetland permitting, and we need to replenish the money that we used for that. Because if you remember, in our original budget for construction of the landfill, our previous engineering firm had about right at $1 million for all of permitting for cells 8 and 9. We spent $1 million in the first 3 months, so that doesn't include any of the purchase of mitigation credits. So we're trying to recover that by keeping the reserve, the amount we're putting in reserves up for FY26. Next is just a breakdown of the revenues. Again, it's just a different way to look at what we just looked at, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you can see that the majority of the picture that we're trying to tell, the story we're trying to tell with this picture, is that majority of our revenue comes from tip fees, as you already know. So a breakdown of the tip fees, municipal tip fees will bring in just over 29 million. Navy waste will bring in just over about 1.25 million, 1.2 million for Navy waste, and that's due to an increase in the contract price that we negotiated this year. After if you remember, this is an important piece of why we increased the amount. We are now paying lease agreement to the Navy for the RDF facility, which is going to be the Portsmouth Transfer Station when it's completed. We're trying to recover that because the attorneys told us that we could increase our tip fee to the Navy to pay for it, but they were going to charge us that amount because there's some internal things that go on with the Navy that I'm not too familiar with. But they said go ahead and increase the tip fee to pay for it, but we're going to charge you this on an annual basis. So that's where we are. We've increased the tip fee and they've agreed to it. C&D landfill, C&D material will bring in just over 600,000. The Norfolk sludge will be about 350,000. Contract waste from both contract and non-contract waste. The difference is 30,000 tons for contract waste. Under 30,000 tons, they pay a different rate for non-contract waste. So contract waste, we bring in just over almost 13 million, and non-contract waste about 5.5 million. The tip fee for this addresses the tip fee increase that we just talked about. So variances in the revenue from last year to this year was an increase in landfill gas royalties. That number has continued to rise, and the market is good for selling RINs right now. So the decrease in investment income of 127,000 and an increase in commercial tip fees of about just over $4.5 million. That's twofold, not just the tip fee increase, but also the projected increase in tons of commercial waste. So again, kind of along the same lines as in revenue, here's just a pie chart that shows what our expenses are and what percentage they are. As you can imagine, the largest amount of what we spend is for disposal fees, 33%, and salaries at 17%. And then you have money going into reserves at 16%. So that's the bulk of where our money goes. Our breakdown of the expenses, capital replacement is about $4.5 million. That's been a plan that's been in place. It's a long-term plan that we project out 20 years, but really, as most of you who do capital budget knows, it's only good for about 2 or 3 years to be accurate. And then you start losing some of the validity of the numbers as you go out because of the uncertainty of what it will cost. Reserves for landfill and flyover, again, 8.5 million, and I've already told you why. Salaries and wages, just over 9 million. Benefits, just over 3 million. We received a increase in healthcare premiums this year of about 17%. So I don't know if the rest of you are seeing that in your localities, but that's what we're looking at from our risk sharing group. Materials and supplies at professional and contract services is almost $6 million, 5.8. Materials and supplies, just a little over 3 million, and other operating expenses at just over $1 million. Commercial waste hauling and disposal was 17 million. Major variance in expenses is waste and hauling disposals, 4 million. Capital equipment purchases is down almost 5 million. If you remember, that's directly related to the funding that we received from Wheelabrator for transition of that facility to a transfer station. Flyover and landfill reserves, put 500,000 less in this year than we did last year, but about 5 million more than the previous year. The salaries and benefits are up 650,000. Professional services is down by 350,000, and other operating expenses is down just over 500,000. The next slide shows projected tip fees for the next coming years, and this is a requirement of our strategic operating plan. Because of continued construction of cells 7, because you have 3 phases of cell 7, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and they come online about 4 years apart, and then we'll go directly into cells 8 and 9. We're moving we're projecting the tip fee is going to go up to about $70 for disposal of the current disposal mechanism. Now, we were discussing the alternative waste disposal along with the use support agreements in our July meeting, and hopefully we'll have the same chart for that at that point, and we'll discuss how all of that's going to work together. We're working on a plan for that right now to have both of those tip fees available to you. All right, are there any questions on the proposed budget? Yes, sir.
I want to thank you first for an excellent presentation on a very tough budget. I don't think there's many things that you said in this year's budget that you didn't have to take 2 or 3 hard looks at, try to come to something that we can agree with and accept. I a little concern, and I know this is a tough one to deal with, but you've proposed a 2% raise for employees. My understanding, a couple of cities are recommending 5%. A couple cities are recommending 3%. I try to keep up with that in as much as I can in the paper. I don't want to misquote anybody, but I'd like for you to, if it's agreeable with the board, for you to go back and see if we can at least match the 3% that on the rest of your budget I give you.
Chairman. Is that the direction? Is that this has been a let me say this to you. This has been a challenging budget to put together, and we started out. That's not where we started out at. Let me be clear about that. But that's where we landed on. We can certainly go back if that's the board's pleasure before our next meeting and look at a 3% increase if that's what the board would like for me to do. But I'm presenting a budget to you that I think that the staff has worked through. We certainly can go back and look at it, and I certainly want to get all employees as much as we can possibly get them. But this was a challenging budget, and the 2% was where we landed at. because we also had some increase in their healthcare.
And I understand that, and that's just coming from me. If somebody else wants to carry it to the next level, to make it a motion to get it to you, I'm okay with that. If you who wants to die here because of lack of that, I understand that as well. I understand the position you've been put in.
Dennis, a couple of things, questions about the fees. I know a lot of times fees will drive behavior, so my question is related to construction demolition waste. I would assume we want to keep that out of the landfill, correct?
Yeah, that's part of the reason. The other part of it is regardless of whether it's C and D land, if it's C and D material, whether it's municipal solid waste, tons a ton, we're compacting it. Uh, why is it less expensive? Because we're putting it in a landfill that costs the same to build, whether you're going to put MSW in it or whether you're going to put
No, I agree
C
with
and
you. I
D.
mean,
So
I
we're
think that,
trying to drive behavior, but if we take it, we want to make sure we're taking it at a rate that's equal to what we're really there for, which is MSW.
well, we don't need to be using a valuable landfill, line space with something that can go elsewhere to a private area. So the question I also had was on the electronics recycling.
Yes.
Where does that material go?
Goes to a company out of Knoxville, Tennessee. We have no cost unless it is an item that they don't accept. It's included in the contract as an unacceptable item, and then they charge us. Mike, can you stand up, please, and come to the microphone? Michael was the person who worked this deal. Um, Is that, Michael, what is the cost for an item, and how many have we had over the last year that they sent back with a charge for it?
So we try not to send anything that is going to be a charge, like CRT, TVs, stuff like that. Stuff that was getting disposed of anyway at the landfill. We segregate all that and we only send stuff they'll take for free.
But it's my understanding, Mr. Keaton, that we haven't had any returns, so we've paid no fee
No charges.
at all to them, but they give us a gondola, 20 or so gondolas. We fill them. When we have them full, we call them, they send a truck, they pick them up, they take them back, and then they bring us new gondolas to put them in. So we have no cost other than staff time to sort them and pull out the ones that are not available. And I gave a report several months back on what the costs were and capital costs were that we incurred, along with operating costs. And we actually broke even with the current cost um, uh, for service.
So I guess my question is then why are we increasing the fee for commercial if it's no cost to us? My concern is, would they start, disposing of landfill if they have to charge, if they have to pay $5 per unit? If we have no cost to dispose of it, why are we going up so much on that? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
We don't have a disposal cost, but we have staff time and we have capital. And our real issue here was to try to be able to drive down the price for the residents that come in. We have, I've got the numbers here, just hang just a second.
We've had commercial people trying to dispose of like 300 units, 400 units, and just the time it takes to put that together in those boxes and stuff it's
We had 3,338 users, residential users of the program. We can handle a lot more. So the idea was that if we add commercial, right now commercial can't bring us, we only take from residents. This is adding another item to the tip fee schedule to try to bring down the cost. If we brought in 10,000 items, we may not have to charge anything to residents for bringing in their equipment for disposal. But we have 3 trailers that we use for all of our events, and we take them to our HHW collections at offsite, and we have collection at the regional landfill. The items that were included in our original proposal were the items that it took to go out and get the electronics items and bring them back from offsite events, and then staff time for managing the program.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand. So do we take commercial items now or not?
No,
So this is a new item
this
to
is in
allow?
addition to the, yes, sir.
Okay.
And what we didn't want to do was make it so that like Goodwill could come bring us, 500 computers and only charge $15 for it. Because right now it's a per trip charge for residents. So if we just added commercial without adding some fee to it, then they would just be bringing us, tremendous amount of items, and we'd lose control over what we're actually sending away.
So what, okay, I'm sorry, I keep asking this question. So what if they just mix it in? What are they doing with it now? Commercial for e-waste, what are they doing with their items they
They're
get rid of?
having to take it someplace else and usually pay to dispose of it. They're not, we're not receiving it. We don't accept it.
But
I don't know.
is there a local facility for it to accept it?
A lot of that's going into the dumpsters at the stores, going in the trash cans. It's not being disposed of the way it should be disposed of.
That's my point. I guess
Okay.
my question is, are we going to scare people away and we're just going to keep it in the trash anyway, rather than making it a little bit lower cost to get rid of it through this e-waste provider? To look at that, $5 per unit might cause them to just throw it in the trash anyway.
Okay, that's a good point. We don't want to do that. That's certainly not what we want to do. We don't want to deter people from doing that.
Thank you. Dennis, I had a couple questions
Okay.
on the the contract non-municipal waste, changing them from 53 to 62 on
Yes.
the tip fee change. And then we're showing, you're anticipating still growth in that market, even with the fee increase?
Yeah, the tons that we're looking at for commercial this year is 250,000. Is that right? I don't think I have it right here.
Did I say it wrong? I don't know why. I'm looking at 59. I'm sorry. It was a $3 change is what I think I was looking at. So I just, that $10 million is, or excuse me, the 10% increase on tip fees is kind of critical to making the budget balance. That's why I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding where that 10% increase on tip fees, you're projecting both the fund, both the per ton increase and an increase in the number of tons. And then we're providing a disincentive to receive C and D. C and D is only, I just did a quick check here, it's like 1.3% of the overall tip fee. So that's not a huge difference. So, but it does seem to me that contract non-municipal is key to making the budget balance. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. And we feel confident that we're not going to see a drop off changing the tip fee by $3.
No, I don't think so. But if we do, we don't need it anyway, because you're getting to the point where it's costing us to manage. If we don't increase that, when we get another increase from the hauler, it's April is when the new rate comes into play. If it's another 4% next year, and you get an increase from Waste Management, it's going to be costing us more than to dispose the waste than we're receiving from the haulers.
Okay, so if we did see a drop off, we'd see a corresponding drop off on the expense side.
Exactly.
So we'd see a
We
corresponding.
wouldn't have disposal and hauling.
Okay, that's helpful to understand.
So, yeah, the 30,000.
Okay, all right. And then to Mr. McCoy's question, you mentioned on slide 14, you mentioned that SPSA's health benefit costs have gone up 17%. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was the increase to the employee share of that?
We absorbed that. That's the point I was trying to make.
Okay.
2% plus the increase, it amounted to about 3% to the employee in terms of a salary increase.
Okay. I
And
think that's
rather
helpful.
than advertise that and say, okay, we're going to give you a 3% pay increase, or propose a 3% pay increase to you, and then raise their health insurance up 3%. I don't like, I mean, that's smoke and mirrors to me. I'd rather you just tell them what they're getting. And that's where we landed on the 2%.
So if I can restate it, I just, please make sure I'm saying this correctly. You're proposing a 2% cost of living allowance and a complete absorption of their health benefit
correct.
increases.
Now, there is some other increase in the full amount you see in the budget for benefits is not health insurance increase.
I understand.
There were other increases that we incurred. But that is correct. What you just said is absolutely correct. And that was our thinking behind the 2%. That's how we kind of settled there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hey, two things. One, it doesn't need to be part of the budget, but I would like to see a summary of with the Navy, our agreements and the different financial things that are going on there sometime in the future. And with respect to the commercial waste, the issue of what's a unit for the $5. If I bring in a monitor and a hard drive and a keyboard and a mouse, is that 4 items or 1 item?
Any of it is an item.
Okay.
We had that discussion internally, and then we had that executive committee last week.
Just so it's clear, we'll probably get some kickback. Thanks.
I concede to the, thank LJ for bringing that 17% increase in health insurance, and that's a big factor today, and every one of us are facing that. So if you bear that 17%, I'm sure that will exceed the 3% that is the 3%. So I accept the fact that your recommendation of 2%.
Thank you, Mr. Quay. I had a couple comments. When you do talk about other jurisdictions, you have to make sure we're comparing apples and oranges. Some jurisdictions will have a cost of living increase, and then they'll separately have step increases. Other jurisdictions, that amount will be the total amount, and any upgrades or promotions or career progressions will be included in that. So we do need to make sure we're looking at apples and oranges. And then make sure if you looked at the numbers, the cost of our commercial waste versus our revenue, we're not making that much. I think it was less than $1 million of net revenue. So I don't want anybody to think that our commercial contract is a cash cow for us. It really isn't. And those costs tend to be more, you don't have this issue between average cost and incremental costs where taking a little more is at a very small cost and we make the average revenue. What happens when we take a little bit, when you take more commercial waste, your cost goes up proportionally, just like our tip fee goes up. Whereas in the case of municipal revenue, a lot of that disposal is a fixed cost. So when municipal revenue goes down, costs don't drop so much, but the revenue does. So just a couple of sort of unique things about our budget we have to take a look at. But thanks, everybody's had good comments.
To that point, if you look at commercial, the disposal rate, and you look at how much we're paying for disposal and how much we're paying for hauling, there is a delta there between what we're charging and what is. But really, that delta covers our cost for operating a transfer station. Otherwise, the municipal waste would be bearing all the costs of the transfer station. So we apply some of that to, and so there is no surplus there. It's actually what it cost us. And if we don't increase that to the proposed number, then we're likely going to be losing money if we receive the same increases next year that we received this year.
All right, well, these have been very good questions. Give the staff some thoughts to think about it, and maybe come back and have a few comments to wrap those up next time. Is there any other questions on the budget? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is to set a resolution, and I'm going to let our council run this by exactly how this works. I've laid it out at our last meeting, but he's going to read the resolution anyway, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Spain.
As Dennis mentioned before, there's a process for raising tip fees, which we do every year. The first step is to adopt a resolution with the preliminary schedule that will then have to be published in the newspaper twice between now and the time the public hearing on those tip fees will occur, which will be next month. So we've got the resolution prepared. It attaches as a schedule the most current version of the revised tip fee that I think Dennis sent out yesterday. But the process here is for the board to adopt this resolution, come back next month, have a public hearing, consider any changes or other adjustments to it, and then approve it at that time. So I'll go ahead and read the resolution for the record. Resolution to adopt preliminary schedule of fees and charges for the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia and setting date for public hearing on same. Whereas the Board of the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia, sometimes referred to herein as SPSA, desires to change certain rates, fees, or charges previously fixed by SPSA for the services available through its refuse collection and disposal system by increasing rates payable for contract non-municipal solid waste, construction and demolition waste, water treatment plant sludge from member communities, and household hazardous waste per resident visit, and establishing a commercial rate for e-waste with such changes to be effective July 1, 2025. And whereas in connection with proposed changes to existing rates, fees, or charges, and proposed fixing of new rates, fees, or charges to be levied by SPSA for the disposal of solid waste at its facilities, section 15.2-5136G and section 15.2-5136H of the Virginia Water and Waste Authorities Act, the act, require one, the adoption by SPSA of a resolution setting forth a preliminary schedule fixing and classifying such rates, fees, and or charges. Two, SPSA to set and hold a public hearing with respect to such preliminary schedule where all users of the systems or facilities and all other interested parties have an opportunity to be heard concerning the proposed rates, fees, and charges set forth therein. Three, notice of such public hearing to be given by two publications in a newspaper having a general circulation in the area served by SPSA's refuse collection and disposal system, with the first notice being published no more than 28 days before, and the second notice appearing no less than 7 days before the date fixed in such notice for the hearing. And four, a copy of such notice to be mailed to the governing bodies of all localities in which such refuse collection and disposal system or any part thereof is located. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia hereby adopts the preliminary revised schedule of fees and charges for solid waste management, setting forth such rates, fees, and charges to be levied by SPSA for the disposal of solid waste at its facilities, with the change in new rates reflected in such schedule to be effective July 1, 2025, as set forth on the attached page. And further resolved that the Board of the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia hereby one, establishes May 28, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. as the date and time for the public hearing on the preliminary revised schedule of fees and charges for solid waste management. And two, authorizes and directs SPSA executive staff to provide notice of such public hearing as required under and in accordance with the applicable provisions of section 15.2-5136G of the Act by publication and with copies by mail to the governing bodies of SPSA's member localities.
I would make a motion to adopt this resolution. We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution that has just been read by our attorney. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Is this something that needs a roll call vote or just a voice vote?
Let's just do roll call.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Okay.
Mr. Maxwell.
Yes.
Mr. Sori. Ms. Ralston. Ms. Oglesby. Dr. Baugh. Mr. Keaton. Mr. Kiefer. Mr. Broad. Mr. McCoy. Ms. Graham Williams. Mr. Parnell. Ms. Lowe. Mr. Green. Mr. Moore. Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you very much. The next issue will be executive director updates. Dennis?
Well, we have one other item here.
Oh.
First, next month at your meeting after you consider your budget. Next month in the meeting after you consider your budget, there will be a requirement to adopt the new operating procedures for the year. And what I've done is I've just kind of highlighted the areas that we've changed. You've got a copy of that already at your desk. That shows the red line changes that we're proposing that we'll be voting on at our next meeting. I don't think there's anything here that's going to be an issue with anybody. These are all just housekeeping kind of things that we need to do every year. First on page 10 reflects the change in design capacity at the Oceana transfer station. We did the same thing last year at Chesapeake. We went through a modification to our PBR to increase the capacity because we were seeing tonnages increase and we wanted to make sure we stayed ahead of that. So this particular standard operating procedure reflects that. Page 12 is an updated organizational chart. Page 13 is corrected hour of operations for the weekends for the 2 stations that have Sunday hours. It just reflects what we've actually been doing. Page 14, under the holiday schedule, we removed staff training day. This has caused issues. It works for SPSA because we get all of our employees the required training and talk about insurance. We talk about all the things that we need to talk about one time, but it didn't necessarily work for all of our member communities. So we've pulled that off of the particular days that were closed. Page 20 is just updates the planning horizon for what we anticipate with the new cells coming online, what happens when the permit modifications are completed, that sort of thing. Then page 21 is just a new picture of the master plan that takes cells 10, 11, and 12 and turns them into preservation area. Then page 22 is the updated airspace calculations that you all received at your last meeting from SCS engineers. And then page 31 is the updated proposed schedule of fees. And if there are any changes to that, they'll be adopted at the next meeting. If you have any questions about that when you read through it, you certainly can give me a call. There's not anything, I don't think that's going to be questionable in it at all. Now we'll move into the executive director's report.
Yes, now we'll go into the executive director updates, and I'll turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you. First is the wetlands update. We're still waiting to receive the record decision from the Army Corps, but we received the draft Virginia wetlands preservation individual permit from DEQ, and we've scheduled the public notice has gone out or will be going out in the paper. We're doing both Suffolk Herald and the Virginia Pilot. So that public notice for the permit has been paid for, and we're just waiting for it to come out. Then the only thing that we left is a record of decision from the Corps. And I've called about 3 times in the last week to try to get an answer, and nobody's answering over the Corps. I don't know. Our representative may be off, but as far as we know, there's been no issues come up, and we finished everything we need to finish, just kind of waiting for the signature to come through. All right, next is alternative waste disposal contract. We have provided Commonwealth Sortation with a full draft contract that we've reviewed with staff. Attorneys provided to us, and we've reviewed it. We provided to them. Commonwealth is supposed to complete their review this week, and then we'll follow up negotiations after their first turn of the document will be the following week. So we're moving along as scheduled on alternative waste disposal contract. Next is the leachate evaporator. This is a picture of the leachate evaporator being installed. As you can see, they're getting really close to being able to fire this thing up. They told you all along that everything had been done, just waiting for the DEQ to give us a go ahead. And once they did, they really put this thing together quickly. And looking forward to getting it started, hopefully prior to July the 1st. Here's a picture of the flyover. This would be on the, if you look to the right, you see the railroad tracks. The first lanes you come to, those would be the eastbound lanes, and the work is near the top. It's hard to see from this picture, but actually the exit ramp off of 58 onto the new bridge is already in place. There's a couple of here's a picture of they were going to draw the square cofferdam here is where the piles are being driven for the first section of bridge. They're up now. That happened the day after this picture was taken. Actually, they drove those piles, so they're moving very, very quickly to get these piles in. And here is one of the issues that we've been brought to you last month about a change order where they're mucking out the old ditch here, and they put down some type of soil material, and then they're filling it in with rock, and then they're going to fold that in and kind of envelop it, and then begin to build a road on top of that. So that's the actual road bed deep down. All right, cell 7 construction. Oh, by the way, we've asked Mike Davis from VDOT to put off his report back to you until your June meeting because of all that we have going on at the next meeting. So hopefully everybody can hold on till then, but the progress is moving along on the flyover. So cell 7 construction, phase 1, the final specs are under review. We're reviewing those now. We set target dates of May the 12th to have the bid package out. I see our consulting engineer in the back shuddering when I say that, but he knows we're trying to move as fast as we can. The pre-bid is to be held on the 26th of May, and then the due date would be June the 16th. We're looking at probably 2 weeks for review. That's awful aggressive, believe me. I understand that, and likely will extend out. But if we say 2 weeks, we'll probably end up passing if we said we're 4 weeks, because even if it takes longer, we'll be at a quicker pace. The award construction contract sometime around the 1st of July will be our hope. And I'll keep you posted on where we are. If we miss any of those dates, I'll let you know. But that is a very aggressive. I understand it's very aggressive. Next is updates to the member communities. I made a presentation to both Chesapeake and Suffolk, as I've already informed you. Met with 4 members of Portsmouth City Council in 2 different groups, so we didn't violate the FOIA. Met them 2 different times. Then we're scheduling tours at the regional landfill and at the alternative waste disposal site with council members. We made presentation to 2 community groups that were, and they were been well received. We did a group called Green Drinks that meets. They were very impressed with the presentation, and one of them is actually going on a tour of the facility. Then there's another group, the Chesapeake Democratic Party. We didn't know it until the day we were going there that that's who it was, but we did a presentation there and got overwhelming support from them about the recycling in Chesapeake. So that's a pretty big deal. We made I've got a meeting with the Norfolk City manager. It was supposed to be yesterday, and it's been changed because he had something that come up scheduled for next week, and Mr. Kuiper will be at that meeting, and Mr. Broad will be at that meeting. So
Dennis,
moving along.
I want to make sure all the board members understand and let your principals know, if I don't show up to these meetings, it's because, and rightly so, the 2 board members from the locality are typically there. And if I show up, it then becomes a public meeting and it's not allowed, or unless we were to advertise it, and then the public's welcome to come, and kind of goes downhill from there. So please make sure your principals understand it's not a lack of interest. And if any of your principals want one-on-one meetings with Dennis and I, we'll do everything we can at their convenience to meet with them and answer every question they might have on any issue. Thank you.
And I'll vouch for him firsthand. Every time we have a meeting, he continues to call me. Are they going to be there? Are they going to be there? Because if not, I'll come. But I don't want to be there. And then we have two other members already there. So very, very much involved in it. All right. Use support agreements. I'm going to turn this over to Brett real quickly, but I'll go ahead and finish the two last bullets. Brett has been working on, and we received, some of the group that's working on it received a copy of it yesterday afternoon, of the first draft, to begin to look through. More in-depth discussions regarding the use of support agreements. We're planning currently for July to be a main part of our July meeting. So if you just work with us on this while we continue to work through it, I think we're going to have a lot of the problems resolved before we get to July. And with that, I'll let Brett give you a quick update on where we are on the use of support agreements.
All right, we've got a draft together. I'm planning to meet with John Kuiper and Dennis to go through that further. Right now, it's a very simple draft that the main point is everybody knows to extend the term of the use and support agreements, trying to work in where we can some flexibility, because I understand the locality is going to have some hesitancy about considering that agreement without knowing really what the full Commonwealth sortation agreement would look like. So putting in contingency for that, and also trying to address issues with people's commitments on recycling to date. But we should have that ready to go. I've been talking with Brad Nowak as well at each step here, because we've got to coordinate those two agreements to make sure they work together. And I talked to him yesterday, he's going to look at some changes based on how the recycling is going to be handled. But I don't anticipate any issues with having that ready for discussion by July.
All right. Any questions to Brett? So, now we're going to look at the shortfall in municipal tons more in depth, and I'm going to try to breeze through this because some of this information I've already given you, and it seemed like everybody has a pretty good understanding of it. But I do want to follow up on some of the discussion that we had at our previous meeting. Here again is the same chart and it shows what we expected it would do. Is that the municipal volumes are going back up. This month they were at 35,700 tons, which is still below what we budgeted, the average budget number, but it's following the same trajectory of the graph lines that we see every year. So we very much anticipated it doing this. Then the commercial volumes, again, that kind of a burnt orange dotted line with 18,167 being the target for the year. We're well above that. Again, that following the same trajectory of the previous year. It's going up for the month of March. It'll go down a little bit and then it'll come back up again based on whatever's going on in society. And then the total waste volumes are well above where we expected them to be for this month. So we're still above the line, so we're pretty good shape here. Now, one of the things that was asked of me last meeting was to look at cumulative numbers so that you can actually see what the numbers are. For the municipal solid waste, we budgeted last year 480,000 tons. We're at 336,000 tons currently for March, and our projections for next year's budget, what we did was we looked at the current level divided by 9 and multiplied by 12 to come up with what the monthly average would be, and then the total volume would be. So we feel pretty good about our next year's numbers. We don't feel so good about this year's numbers. We're going to end up with a shortfall. Next is the cumulative waste volumes for commercial. The cumulative volume that for the waste volume that we budgeted was 189,000 tons, and we're looking right now already at 215,000 tons. So anything we add to that between now and the end of the year would be bonus. One of the reasons for this large increase is we we did not budget. We have a contract with Waste Management that you all approved and you're aware of. It's a swap agreement that has 30,000 tons. Where they can bring us 30,000 tons, we take 30,000 tons to one of the landfills, and it's a wash. They only pay the hauling cost for it, and then they pay a fee for the transfer station. But there's no disposal cost for that. We're bringing them exactly what we agreed to, but they're bringing us more than they agreed to, a lot more than they agreed to. So part of the contract, they're responsible for paying us the full price for that. So those tons are tremendous in the big scheme of things. Also, we had budgeted with the closure of uh, the wheelbarrow plant, we had decreased some of the tonnages that TFC was bringing us because we weren't expecting them to be a commercial contract commercial customer anymore because they would be bringing us less than 30,000 tons. That then held true, but they were still bringing us more waste than we anticipated they would bring us. So that's where those numbers come into play. But next year's numbers have corrected that. The cumulative waste totals is 551,000, and we are budgeting 700,000 total. So we are going to meet, we feel confident that we will meet our budget for total tons, but it will be because of the commercial increase and the residential decrease. And again, that goes to what the behavior is of citizens and what are citizens doing. So what's happened is we've experienced a shortfall this year due to those tons that were not necessarily budgeted for, even though there's revenue coming in. The revenue doesn't match with commercial tons. It's not the same as for residential tons because the residential tons were budgeted to go to the landfill at no cost. So that's one element of it. The other element of it is that we are moving more waste that we had not budgeted to move to a private landfill that was municipal waste because of trying to decrease the amount of waste we're putting in the landfill. So those two storms together created a budget shortfall in our disposal cost. So here's a breakdown of 24 and where these numbers all came from for the FY25 budget, and then the corrections that we're making in the 26 proposed budget. And this was something that Mr. Sure if it was Mr. Hanson, I think it was probably brought up that we need to make sure we consider that in the numbers, the shortfall numbers and tonnages in the upcoming budget. And this is just a representative of the fact that we're doing that and basing it on our current numbers. So increased hauling and disposal cost. Part of this is due to some of the information that you received at your last meeting, and this is just excerpts from last month's presentation from SCS engineers. I don't spend a lot of time on it because you know what it says. The permitted life expectancy of the landfill is 1.9 years. That's what we've been basing our all of our projections on to make sure that we have capacity through construction of cell 7. And then here's the representation of the permit modifications that we're going through and what the life expectancy would be. And I want to go back to tell you that this is certain, this is projected. We know we're going to get additional airspace, but are we going to get 4.2 years? I don't know that we're going to do that. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to, on an almost daily basis, determine how much waste we need to haul to a private landfill and how much we need to haul to SPSA. So we're increasing the amount that we're hauling of municipal waste that we're hauling to private landfills in order to conserve airspace at the SPSA landfill based on what we're seeing from our compaction numbers and what we're seeing from our topography that we run, so we can make sure that we meet that period in time when we get cell 7 back online. So it increased our amount that we're having to haul to the disposal site, and it increased the disposal cost. So the increase in commercial waste being hauled, increased the hauling costs, but there's also been that increase in 4.8% in the hauling cost that came in last month. And then the increase in municipal tons that we're hauling is the key part of that. Then in disposal, we're increasing the commercial waste being disposed of that wasn't accounted for in the original budget. But the revenue wasn't accounted for either. Keep that in mind. The balancing the municipal tons going to the landfill, that's where the big drawback is, because we're taking tons that we were going to be planning to dispose of for free, and we're having to pay for them now. And then the increase in disposal rates by Waste Management at both Bethel and at Atlantic. So actions that we're taking to address this shortfall. First of all, staff has been directed to stop all discretionary spending. If there's projects that are in the budget that are discretionary, then we have stopped them. For instance, one of those items is a crane, overhead crane that we were installing at the fleet facility at the landfill. We stopped that project, and we've taken that money to move to help pay for the overage in hauling and disposal. We reevaluated logistics. We made some changes in the way that we're handling the commercial hauling to decrease the overall cost to the hauler, or that we're paying to the hauler. We're continuing to scrutinize the tonnages going to the regional landfill, trying to take as much as we can, but still give us that zone that we need to be in to have waste for next year. Identified savings in the FY25 budget. We have both savings and some projects that we've deferred, and we're proposing a budget transfer across object codes to cover the cost. And here's a breakdown of what we're proposing to move. First is I can't see the numbers up there very clear. I'm sorry. Hopefully this will be done soon with these projectors. The tolls, we're looking at moving $100,000. OTS drop and hook paving project was a budget savings of $17,400. Overhead crane to the landfill, $200,000. We're deferring that project. Tip floor concrete, we're going to defer that, and that was $500,000. The regional landfill pump, we're deferring that. Then the transportation HVAC, we had a replacement HVAC system there for $40,000. We're deferring that. And then we had a $650,000 savings in fuel. And then we had an $85,000 savings in purchase of an excavator, for a total budget transfer of $1,642,400 to hauling and disposal. So what we would need, according to our financial plan, is to have our financial requirements is that we have a motion authorizing us to move that money across object codes. I think the limit for the executive director to do that without authority from the board would be $100,000. So it's $50,000. Thank you, Sandy. So the motion would be a move. Someone move that the executive director be allowed to transfer $1,642,400 across cost centers as presented due to increased disposal fees incurred to divert municipal waste to private landfills in Waverly and Hampton to conserve available airspace at the regional landfill. And your financial reports, your written financial reports, always have in the back of it budget transfers that are made that are less than the required amount. But this, since this is above, we want to give it to you, then it would show up in the next month if you approve it.
I'll make a motion to authorize the budget transfer, but I do have a question when we get to comments.
I'll second that, but I've got a question also later on the Commonwealth and the life of these landfills, how they
Yeah, what is the regional landfill pump, $50,000? Is that a leachate pump or what is that?
Wait a minute.
It's a diesel dewatering pump that would use to dewater the,
Dewatering?
yes.
I think we have 5 of them, don't we, Henry? 4?
But that's, in the landfill pumping the leachate, is that what
No,
that?
sir.
No.
It's a mobile.
Okay.
We,
Dennis, the deferred projects, they all appear to be capital. Just remind me, do we put the capital in the regular operating budget, or are you moving it from a capital fund back over to operating?
We don't have a separate capital fund, so it is part of the operating
Okay.
budget.
Thanks.
So, in a similar vein, I had questions about the deferred projects, specifically the tip floor concrete, but all of them in general. Is the intent to move them to next year's budget?
It is, and there is a money in next year's budget for that, but to be quite honestly, we're looking at some alternatives to pulling all the concrete up and using a coating that's out now, that could save. So this is a project, that's why it hasn't been done yet.
Okay, I guess the question I'll ask it in the simplest terms that my mind can process. If we defer this, is it going to be a problem that we're going to have to just deal with next year? As that's what I'm trying to get to. Are we kicking a can down a road to solve a short-term problem?
Well, you are kicking a can down the road, but I don't think it's going to be a problem next year.
Okay.
I think we've looked at this from a more holistic approach than just what fixes our problem now. It's what fixes the problem in next year's budget and addresses the problems we have this year. So we don't see that as being an issue. Those projects we believe will be we don't believe it. We know that they're in the next year's budget.
Okay, all right.
So I just wanted to clarify some of this financial tightness that we're looking at. Again, I may not have done it as well previously. When the municipal waste tonnage drops, our revenue drops from that proportionally, but our expenses do not drop proportionally because there's a lot of fixed costs. When our commercial waste contracts go up, our revenue goes up, but our costs go up almost proportionally because they do not have low incremental costs. So, and that's what we're really looking at here. We're looking at a situation where our residential customers are putting out less waste, which is hurting our revenue. It's being made up by additional commercial waste, but that does not generate us additional revenue. It does generate additional revenue, but it's offset by costs that are almost nearly as equal to that.
And at that same point on the residential waste, the MSW, if we divert a ton away from the regional landfill right now, that's an increase in cost of about $50 per ton. Because we didn't include a disposal cost because we were taking that waste to the regional landfill, and we weren't incurring a hauling cost because we were already paying to take it to the regional landfill. So now we're moving it across to a different location, and we're having additional fees for hauling and for disposal. And what's necessary to do that, what makes it necessary to do that, is the fact that we got to save this landfill space so we have some available to make it through until cell 7 comes online. And our consulting engineers are working as hard as they can to get us to the point where we can get this bid out next month.
All right, well, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the budget transfer across the cost centers as presented by the executive director.
You had a motion and a second already. We just need a vote.
Words where you intended to do that. So.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought we did it out. I'll make a motion.
I thought I seconded it.
Wasn't actually read. So I'm going to go ahead and read the motion that was made and read the resolution that was motioned and seconded. I move to authorize the executive director to transfer $1,642,400 across cost centers as presented due to increased disposal fees incurred to divert municipal waste to private landfills in Waverly and Hampton to conserve available airspace at the regional It's been motioned and seconded. Any additional discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Is a voice vote on this good? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? A motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and then we'll turn it over to the CFO for a third quarter financial report. Use this one. That one's on.
Good morning. Hopefully you're not tired of talking about numbers yet, because I have more. Through the third quarter of FY '25, we are at total revenue of 48.1 million. Of that, the municipal tipping fees are 69.7% of budget. Other tipping fees are actually already over budget at 102%, and other revenue is at 99.8%. So overall revenue from all tipping fees, we're at 80% of the annual budget. Commercial tonnages, as we already talked about, are higher than budget. And revenue from the landfill gas recovery and interest on investments are both higher than what we had projected for the year so far. So we're doing well there. Expenditures through the third quarter, and this is just operating expenses without the capital. We are at almost 80% of the annual budget. Salary and benefits look to be on track. We're at 73.8% through March. And total waste hauling and disposal is at 97.4, hence the need for the budget transfer that we just talked about. So revenues versus expenditures, we are at net revenues of 9.7 as of now. That's compared to 6.8 at this time last year and 5.4 in 23. And part of the reason that it looks so high is because of those capital projects that we are, some of those deferring and some that just haven't been paid for yet. Revenues and expenditures, this is just the graph that shows, the green line is the projections. The orange is expenses, blue is revenue. So revenue looks really well. Expenses are just over the budget at this point. Total capital expenditures is at 13.5 million, and of that, about 7.6 was in the current year's budget, and 5.9 was rolled projects from the previous year. And then the last slide is just the cash balances as of the end of March. Questions?
Mr. Hanson, you had a question?
I'm gonna ask Sandy after the meeting how something works,
Okay.
different than municipality funding.
Okay. All right. No questions on the financial report. Any other business to bring before the board? If not, I'll adjourn
Mr.
the meeting.
Chairman, do you want to do a motion to approve the financial reports?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I would entertain a motion to approve the financial reports. We have a motion. Have a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion to approve the financial reports is carried. Now, do we have any other business to bring before the board? Yes, Mr. McCoy. Your microphone, please.
Dennis, on page 10, you're outlining all of the transfer stations there. I don't see anything, maybe it's not yet, needs to be in this report, the Portsmouth transfer station?
It's, you have to, the operating plan is what you're doing on July 1st. So if we can project that, we can come back when we open it and we add those things in there. But if you put it in here, it's what you're doing on July 1st. And you can revise this plan anytime the board wants to revise it as with a 75% vote. So those changes would come in as we probably, I'd have to talk to council, but probably just before we open it, the board meeting before we open it for business.
I thank you for that.
I would just ask everybody to consider the landfill numbers that Dennis presented to you. Yes, due to some redesign and permitting, there may be some additional time gained here. But as Mr. Hanson has pointed out frequently, some of that additional space is going to be costlier and tougher to achieve than the current design. So there's a balance there. Also, I'd like everybody to keep in mind the numbers that we have are because we have been taking our waste and taking it to other landfills in order to conserve that airspace. And all of this just goes to the fact that landfill space, this area is tight, and it is always going to be tight. And even after cell 7 and hopefully the cell 8 and 9 permits come on, it will still be tight when you look at the long range picture. So landfill space, just don't want anybody getting to think that when we start talking about 30 or 39 years of capacity, that is a very long number. In government years, that's a very actual short period of time. Thank you.
Chairman, can I add one thing? I think you bring up a good point. I've said to this board a number of times that the problem with not having landfill space is that you're at the mercy of the contractors who have landfill space. And that's exactly what's happened since we initiated the first deal with Waste Management 4 years ago. They've increased the cost from $32 a ton at Bethel to $38 a ton. 4 years, it's gone up $6. They also know that there's not a whole lot we can do about except just don't take it to them. But they also know the numbers that we report at our board meeting every month. Where we are. We can't take all of that way. So we're kind of at their mercy. And I've been saying that all along. If we don't do something for the long term, and that's really what alternative waste disposal really does, is it begins to reduce the amount of waste we're putting in the landfill to extend the life of the landfill out into the next century. And it's so important when you look at it from that perspective. And these numbers that I share with you are reflective of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And lastly, I'd like to welcome a new alternate board member to the board, Mr. Jerry Brown, new alternate board member for Virginia Beach. Mr. Brown, thank you.
Okay. Welcome aboard.
All right, if there's no other business before the board, then I will adjourn the meeting.